when your publisher was like, oh, do you want to write another book, and you're super against it, was there something that made you decide that you wanted to write another book, or was it more of a slow thing? What made you decide that?
So Evie's asking about why if I really kept saying no, did I say yes eventually, right? I mean, I think I think part of what happened for me is so there's this is gonna be a long answer, okay. You all know what trauma mastery is, even if you don't know the term trauma mastery. Trauma mastery refers to the idea that one of the hardest things about primary trauma is the out-of-control nature of primary trauma. That's part of what makes trauma trauma, is the out-of-controlness of it. It doesn't have to be acute, because, of course, cancer and Lou Gehrig's disease and all sorts of things can be traumatic. But part of what makes trauma trauma is the out-of-control piece of it. So what humans have done forever is we will recreate situations as similar to the traumatic incident as possible, because we tell ourselves this time we're going to have a different outcome. All right? So there's 3 different realms that we see this happen on. One we see it happen on is just how you spend time. So when I worked in the ER at Harborview, you would see people come back in with similar injuries after doing similar things. Right? You'd be like, I'm not sure what made you think doing this the second time in the same way was gonna not land you in the ER, right? So, you could try to summit Rainier with a friend, something happens on the ascent, your friend gets injured. Trauma mastery would be you go back to Rainier a year later on the exact same day, you try to summit again, because this time you tell yourself nothing bad's gonna happen, all right? The other place we see trauma mastery happen a lot is in relationships. So my friend who said she doesn't have friends anymore, she has a caseload. So it's kind of that kind of, like when you're going through your life, you're like, why do I have the same 3 annoying friends? Like that feeling like you always have that same person in your life, or people feel like they're dating their sister kind of a thing. And then we see it with our work, right? So some people, and it can be all kinds of work. We certainly see it for anybody who feels like they're in a profession where they're trying to alleviate harm or help or anything, but some people really stumble into the work they do, and a lot of people elect to do work because we tell ourselves, with this work, I'm going to try to reconcile something from back in the day. Okay, so if somebody was in foster care for 3 years and that was a hellish experience, they're going to grow up and they're going to become the head of a foster care agency, right? And if you lost somebody to a heart disease, you might go and be a cardiologist, all right? So what we look at with trauma mastery is that there's nothing bad or good about it ever. It's not a bad or good. We look at it in terms of light shadow, right? And what we want to remember with trauma mastery is there's nothing inherently healing about doing this work, for example, right? Because you can show up and you can give everything you have to this work, and you can be keeping some very significant wounds open and impacting them over time. So if you are spending time doing something where you're trying to reconcile something, we want to pay really close attention to it, right? So certainly, I mean, me writing a book on being overwhelmed, some might say, that's curious, Laura, right? I mean, nobody knows me and is like, well, you're the least overwhelmed person. I mean, look at you, just a life of equanimity. You're so mellow, your home's never a circus. I mean, wow. Nobody's confused on how, okay. So one could say, right, that there's some trauma mastery involved there in terms of me trying to reconcile what was up back in the day with me growing up with, some folks in my family had undiagnosed mental health stuff, and my mom got diagnosed with cancer, and just that early stuff of being overwhelmed.